Hi everyone, welcome to Write by Mia. I'm Mia, and in this Writer's Life episode, I will be talking about my journey in actually writing my novel. So in the previous video, I kind of talked about my ideation process and how I thought about the idea of the novel before I really put pen to paper. And just as a quick refresh, I got the idea after studying colorism at school and grew really interested in the phenomenon of colorism among the Black community, the African American community, and I wanted to focus a novel on this phenomenon and focusing especially on a family, a Black family, and how colorism could potentially affect them. So that is where the idea came from, and if you didn't see it, go ahead and check out my last video. That would be great, so you can kind of get an idea of where my head is at. This video is talking about the actual writing process for the novel and how I even attempted to accomplish this task and all the things I was thinking about, all the ways in which I went about it. And it is just one part of a much larger journey that I hope to share with you all. So let's go ahead and get started. First thing that I did is pre-write. I am very much a character-driven writer, so the first thing I did was really get to know my characters. And so what I did was I actually spent a few weeks or even a month just writing, free writing, a bunch of information on my main characters, and I had about 4 or 5 of them. So I would spend, a few days or a week with each character, really getting to understand, like, what are their motivations? How do I want them to grow in this novel? What drives them? How are they interacting with the different characters? All the stuff that I felt would really help me get to know them better, so that when I started to write the novel itself, then they would really come alive because I knew them as intimately as I would want my readers to know them. So that was step one, huge step. I am character driven. I don't know how other writers do it. Some may focus more on plot first, but I really wanted to get to know my characters first before going any deeper. So that was number one. That was probably like the first few weeks to a month when I was really just getting to know who the heck am I writing about and how are they going to grow in this novel. Step 2 was more of a plot sort of pivot, and that was a very general outline. I think I'm not the only one to say this, but a lot of times when you're working on a novel, you don't really know what you want to write about until you're kind of already in it. It may just be me. That was my experience. But I did have a general outline of where I wanted things to be, potential resolution, climaxes, and kind of how I wanted the pacing to be throughout the novel. I know I didn't want it to span decades. I also knew I wanted it to be longer than, a few months in the lives of these characters. So I kind of had a bit hazy outline and draft of how I wanted the plot to kind of go forward, what were the major points between characters, and how did I want to craft it so that it felt regularly paced, not too rushed, but you did feel like you got enough of these characters and the conflict and what they all were going through. So that was the second thing, was just a general outline. And then you just gotta write. And that to me was the scariest part, was really learning to trust myself and just start writing, because you can do all the planning, you can do all the free writing, but eventually you just have to write the thing, right? So I found what helped is that I was very disciplined in writing every single day, and I have a lot of people to thank for that. I believe I mentioned I was part of this program back in college where this novel was part of my senior thesis. So it was an honors group where we all held each other accountable for what we were going to write each week, sharing, workshopping with each other, which I'll definitely dive into in my next video on revising, which is a whole other animal. But I think that really helped me hold myself accountable to writing every day. My goal was 500 words, so a couple of pages double spaced, which doesn't seem like a lot, but sometimes if you're really not feeling it, it can seem like an eternity to write that many words. But I found that keeping up that discipline and having other people around me keep up that discipline really helped in getting the first draft kind of out of the gate relatively quickly. I think I was basically done with it. The first draft, mind you, just the first one. In maybe like a year or so, that senior year of college when I was part of that honors group, which I was really proud of because one, I didn't think I could write that much. The novel is, really big and it's a lot of words, a lot happening. So I was very proud of myself for being able to reach that goal. But I really, wanted to be disciplined. And I think that, was definitely the fruits of my labor was that I came out with this, first draft that I was, pretty proud of. So I would say that the discipline is a huge, component of actually writing the novel. And I was glad I had people around me to help me do that. The third thing, and I kind of touched on this already, was just to have a lot of fun with it. I think first drafts are probably the easiest, and I think other writers may echo this because you're not under the constraints of, oh man, I have to get this perfect. This is supposed to be, my one and only try at this. I think I felt I had a lot of flexibility to play around with language, with character, with plot, with setting, to figure out what I wanted this novel to be and what I wanted readers to get out of it. And I think part of that was helped by the fact that the people who I had read those first drafts, from my husband Devin to those people in my honors class to my advisors and my professors, was that no one was ever really judgmental. Everyone knew we were in the process of creating, which can sometimes be a little messy, sometimes it's not going to be perfect. So I felt very welcomed, and I felt very comfortable and safe making mistakes and making sure that this was not going to be a perfect first draft, because it never is. First drafts never are. And because of that, when I went back to revise, I felt that I had a solid foundation because the readers had given me feedback that either I consciously or subconsciously tried to implement into, the writing of the novel as I went further, and, what they were telling me I was trying to implement. So I think for anyone out there who really wants to start writing a novel, there's definitely not a one size fits all. For me, I just had to write. And when I got sick of it, when I got tired of it, when I felt that I had writer's block, I found it really helped to keep writing, even if it didn't have anything to do with the novel. My advisors and professors were really great about giving me different writing exercises to do, whether that's working on dialogue or working on setting. It really helped me to get out of my head a bit of the novel, so that when I came back to it and started writing again, it was, easier to look at it with fresh eyes and really come to it with a bit more energy and excitement, because it is really exciting. And it's funny, one thing I learned in that first draft and in subsequent drafts was how close you become to your characters. I mentioned at the beginning that I spent a lot of time with them at first to make sure that I knew them well enough to propel them through the novel and the story. But it's crazy how close some of them get to you and how easy some of them are to write compared to others. So that is a challenge I wasn't expecting, but it was also a great joy to have different characters speak to me in different ways, so that when I was writing, they kind of came out of me kind of without effort. Those are the best days, and others weren't as easy. So that was definitely something I enjoyed but also struggled with, and I felt that I had a deeper sense of who these people were as the revisions went on and as I spent more time with them. And I found too that the plot, despite my outline, which I roughly followed and in later revisions tweaked, quite a bit, and you restructure and everything, they came from the characters themselves. I didn't feel that I had to go back and rewrite the whole plot or add in extra things, but the characters really led me to what should happen, what was going to happen. And for that, I am very grateful to have gone through that initial first draft process. And I've gotten through it alive because I feel like there's so much early doubt, there's so much of, I can't do this is too much. But it was literally little by little I got there. I had the support I needed, and I remained really disciplined, which I will say is much easier to do when you're in school and have the time versus when you're older, and working and are being an adult and doing all that stuff. But this video, relatively shorter because the first drafts are always the most fun, as I mentioned, and the writing itself is just something, it's a daily habit, and it's something you're never good enough at, despite how long you've done it. And it was such a joy to work on it, and for this to be my first one and to see where it is today, it's just really amazing. So definitely in my next video, I'm going to talk about revisions, which is a whole other thing, maybe get a bit technical on you, but wanted to just share the joy of the first draft and my process from getting to know my characters, sketching out a brief outline of the plot, and then just disciplining myself to write every day and having that support around me to get feedback, incorporate feedback, and all of that good stuff. So again, if you haven't watched my previous video about the idea for the novel and where it came from, I encourage you to do so here. And of course, I encourage you all to like and subscribe. These videos come out pretty regularly, and I would love to share more with you and hear from you as well. Thank you so much. Talk to you soon.